The president has made clear that he will not sign a short-term extension raising the debt ceiling. But isn't it really an average? Wouldn't a 6 or 7 month extension really be an average for what most presidents have signed? I know the president's talked a lot about Ronald Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
Ronald Reagan signed 3 of them during his reelection in 1984. So why is President Obama asking for something very different than any other president got from a Congress?
Well, because we've never been in a situation like this before, where a Congress has decided that there should be a dollar-for-dollar correlation between deficit reduction, spending cuts, or actually spending cuts, not just deficit reduction, spending cuts, and the amount by which they will raise the debt ceiling. And here's, I mean, we understand what's happening here, right? The policies that faction that's pushing this wants to see put in place do not have even anything close to majority support in the public. They don't have majority support in the Congress. They couldn't get out. They couldn't pass the Senate. They could never become law. But what they would like to see happen by, using the loaded gun of refusing to raise the debt ceiling is an implementation of those policies anyway. Spending cuts, by the way, that would be more draconian, not spelled out, but more draconian than we saw in the Ryan budget, which did not go over so well in the general public.
Have to be all the way through the president's reelection.
Because of it's not about the reelection. You're buying something that is being sold to you, but it's not the case. The issue here is the effect on the economy.
Well, I went back and looked, and in fact, Reagan had 3 times in 1985.
I understand that. I think I've just explained to you why this is different in terms of the behavior of Congress, the insistence on tying it. Really no correlation between increasing the borrowing authority of the United States government to pay bills that this Congress ran up in the past, right? And whatever measures we take to reduce the deficit. Okay? So that parallel doesn't exist. Secondly, given that we have a packed house here, given that we're however many days from August 2nd, do you believe that it will be any easier in an election year? What we all know as veterans of Washington and understand how cycles work, it gets a lot harder to do hard things in an election year, right? And that's not a question of who it helps or hurts politically. You could argue, because the public is overwhelmingly in support of the president's position that we should do this in a balanced way, that this fight is good politically, but it's bad for the country and it's bad for the economy, and we shouldn't do it in 6 months or 8 months.
And if the Boehner bill passes in the House, gets brought up to the Senate, Reid indicated today that clearly they can make some changes to it. They can do it pretty quickly. Is the only objection that the president has to something that the Senate does to change the Boehner bill would be the short-term extension? He would accept all the other stuff?
Well, I don't want to negotiate the details. I mean, I think it has been pointed out that, what I'm pointing out is that Senator Reid's measure here has substantial cuts. It does not call for tax revenue. Even though everybody says the only way to do significant long-term deficit reduction of size, plausibly is to have it be balanced, including revenues. It doesn't have that in it up front. Sets up a committee to try to address that. There are people out there, cooler heads, who say, Republicans who say, wait a second, what's wrong with this deal? Shouldn't you just take it for the sake of the country? And by the way, to claim that you helped create a situation where we embedded into law these substantial spending cuts.
And the president has received an assurance from Senator Reid that there won't be any short-term deal.
I think I let Senator Reid speak for himself. He said on numerous occasions that he opposes a short-term deal.